E. Jean Carroll wins her suit, not trial, but suit, as a court in New York finds that Trump is liable for sexual abuse and battery and defamation, but not for rape. So we'll go over some of what that means and some of the very bad legal and political takes that came out of that, including one rather coming from my very own friend Wiz Political over on Twitter. So we'll be talking about that case, what's going on with that, and what this means going forward. In other news, Tucker Carlson has announced plans for his new show relaunched on Twitter after coming out and saying that no thanks, Fox News, I don't want your payment for the next year. So we'll be talking about that, what's happening there, and what that means for the conversation going forward. New details come out about the Allen, Texas shooter, including bits of his manifesto that he transmitted to absolutely nobody on a Russian social media site, so we'll talk a bit about that and read some of what's happening with that. And J.D. Vance has a railway reform bill that's picking up steam, even picking up an endorsement from the front runner of the Republican Party. It is going to be all of this and more. I was the one flying the balloons. I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. The song says Windfall Island, but I'm almost positive, like 95% positive, that's the Kakariko Village theme from A Link to the Past. Oh, what do I know? I've only played the beginning parts of the Zelda series. I haven't played any of the later ones because, well, silly me, I don't have a console that's new enough to do anything with that. But we are not here to talk about music or The Legend of Zelda. In fact, I've actually got to get myself a new controller so we can finish Legend of Zelda on stream, by the way. I can probably bring the other one up here and show you where it fell down off my desk the other day, and it was already having problems. But, yeah, the control stick broke and half the buttons don't work after it fell down, so this one has bought the farm, unfortunately. Donations can be made either by your Amazon Prime account over on Twitch. That's actually the only platform I'm getting paid off right now. Or bits or anything else. Or I can throw it on an Amazon wish list. But yeah, we need a new controller for doing gaming stuff over here so we can go back and do some more gaming stuff. But with that, we've got a lot to go over here today. So we've got the E. Jean Carroll case and some of the bad political takes that have come off of this, including Tara Reid, by the way, coming up and coming out of the woodwork to talk about what could happen to her in the wake of all this. Tucker Carlson, of course, being back in the news for trying to be the news again. I've even got an MSNBC clip up here that we're going to watch and talk about when it comes up here. The oddity of what happened in Allen, Texas, which I still don't buy, by the way. That is just insanely odd to me, everything that's happening with that, but we'll talk about that. Some last-ditch Hail Marys for the debt ceiling that are probably not going to go anywhere. And even Dianne Feinstein is getting ready to come back to Washington. So we're going to go over probably all this. It's actually been another fairly slow news day again today, which is good because, you know, once you go back to try to catch up with 66 news stories in a week, it definitely takes its toll on you, but we're going to go over all of it here on Contemporary. Before we get started, make sure you guys, for various reasons, go check out some of the great creators that I endorse. The Daily Ignoramus, if you want your news and culture with a bit of a religious bent. The Breakdown with Birkenhoff, if you'd like to see the Gen Z perspective. The Porch Boys, if they would ever come back and would like a more meme-worthy perspective. The R-Rated Conservative, go check him out if late night is more your thing, and he's definitely got the language for late night. Go check out Tweets by Brit if you're over on Twitter. That is at Tweets by Brit, who will be coming forward and bringing out some new programming coming up in the near future. Watch this channel here for details and endorsement for that. If you prefer the audio platform, we've got the No Gimmicks podcast. If you prefer gaming and news culture, you've got Silent Caster and Mr. Behavior over on the Twitch side. And of course, if you'd like your news with a little bit of comedy, go check out Clown World Chronicles with Papa Palpatine. Go check out all that great programming as we come together to bring you a better news experience from the common man for the common man. That's right, stop getting your news from people who wear suits that cost more than your houses. Get your news from people who are just like you. All right, let's get into it. Let's get started. And we're going to start today, as we always do, with the finance and the Dow. So the Dow spent the day down with a couple little groundhog peaks up over the top. Let's get the live chat up here so I can see what you guys are doing on all the platforms. A couple people watching over on the Rumble side. What's Odyssey look like? Is Odyssey empty again? Odyssey is still empty over here. Well, somebody popped in the Odyssey yesterday because we got a dislike off of it, but the Odyssey is over here on our live chat here today. Lemogwai watching for the music. I can get you the playlist. I think I actually have it posted in the Discord somewhere. Fox, you can pay me to sit at home and do nothing. Nice. Oh, we had the caps. What? Oh, F for the controller. Why did the robot hit it before you hit the message? That's weird. Rachel Maddow? Nope, Maddow. Not Maddow today. Alright, let's look in at what's happening here. So, the Dow fell immediately at the open. It V-shaped itself back up, but it just couldn't hold on throughout the day. Even another little rally at the middle of the day that held itself up to the previous close line before falling off at the very end of the day to end the day down 56.88 points, or 0.17%. That is down to 33,561.81. So we're not seeing a lot of big drop. And again, even some peaks up above it, but it's not enough to hold right now. And we will see what happens with the inflation report, because that will be an indicator of what the Fed decides to do with the interest rates coming up. Looking in at your Bitcoin, which followed almost the same pattern, except also ending lower today to 27,565 US dollars and 50 US cents. That is down 110 US dollars even, or 0.4% on the day. Your Madison gas prices are starting to creep back up, it looks like. The 330s that were on the east side have now jumped back up to 340. Oddly enough, a lot of the 340s on the west side turned back into 330s. So looks like it almost reversed itself here, but it does look like it's starting to come back up. So these prices do not necessarily reflect what is happening in your local market. Check your local listings. But it does look like if your local listings follow the same patterns that ours do here, you are probably going to see a hike in your gas prices somewhere in the near future. So this is not official financial advice, but do go and make sure that you're protected, and go check to see if you can go top off while the prices are still relatively low. But we'll see what happens with that. We have got a finance article from CNBC, and our layoffs report is also from CNBC today. From CNBC, stocks closed lower as investors eye inflation data. White House meeting on debt ceiling from Brian Evans and Alex Herring. Stocks closed lower Tuesday as investors readied for key inflation reports due later this week and progress on the U.S. debt limit. The S&P pulled back by 0.46% to 41,1917, and the Nasdaq dropped 0.6 to 12,179.55. The Dow traded flat with a 0.17% decline at 33,561.81. President Brandon is hosting a meeting with House Speaker McCarthy Tuesday afternoon. Both sides have cautioned that the meeting is simply a chance to have a conversation, with definitive progress on raising the debt limit unlikely. Biden and McCarthy remain at odds over the House Speaker's demand that a deal on raising the debt ceiling either be tied to spending cuts. Biden maintains raising the debt ceiling is non-negotiable. Treasury Secretary Yellen said on AMDC Monday that failing to raise the debt ceiling would be an economic catastrophe, and regulators are not close to any policies that would limit short-selling regional bank stocks. Wall Street is hesitant to take on any major positions until we find out the outcome of both the debt ceiling talks at the White House and on whether or not inflation is proving to be very sticky, said Ed Moya, senior market analyst at Oanda. No one is doubting the bank stress won't be going away as lending conditions continue to tighten. Reserve requirements will go up, which will lead to less loans and a weaker economy. PacWest closed up 2.4% after a volatile session. The SPDR S&P 500 regional banking ETF ended the day down less than 1% amid ongoing concerns in the banking sector. So a few things to watch with what we have going on here, and we will continue to see what's happening with that. And your layoffs report for the day. I always find a large amount of irony with this one, because we've had to do this one once before, once we started doing the layoffs report. LinkedIn, the website that helps you find a job, is taking a bunch of jobs away from some of its programmers. LinkedIn lays off 716 employees, kills China Jobs app. From Rohan Goswami. LinkedIn, a popular business social networking platform owned by Microsoft, will discontinue its China-specific jobs app in Career and lay off 716 employees worldwide, the company said in a message to employees. Is this a big amount of employees worldwide? Probably not. Is it enough to take notice? Yes. Is it insanely ironic and hilarious? Absolutely. The move, announced Monday, will affect around 3.5% of LinkedIn's approximately 19,000 employees worldwide. LinkedIn launched in Career in December 2021 after sunsetting its localized LinkedIn product in China. Though in Career experienced some success in the past year thanks to our strong China-based team, it also encountered fierce competition and a challenging macroeconomic climate, LinkedIn CEO Ryan Roslansky said in the message. Shares of parent company Microsoft were largely flat in pre-market trading Tuesday. In the third quarter of 2023, LinkedIn revenue grew 8% year over year to $3.7 billion, according to Microsoft's earnings report and a quarterly SEC filing. In Career will delete all user data by August 9th, according to a LinkedIn help page. So there you go. Once again, the company that helps you get a job is no longer going to be helping you get a job. Alright, and now we're going to go and talk about something that I've been avoiding talking about for a long time, partially because there, as much as like the Krasensteins of the world try to tell you that this is perfectly, completely objective and has nothing to do with politics, this is political. It's all political. And I didn't want to give a lot of it the light of today, but now that it's done, now that it's over, I do think we need to talk about it, especially in the broader sense of what this does for the political map and what this is going forward. Well, let's grab one from Politico and one from Fox News to start with. From Politico to start. Jury finds Trump liable for sexual abuse in E. Jean Carroll case. From Erica Orden and Wesley Parnell. A federal jury on Tuesday found that Donald Trump sexually abused and defamed E. Jean Carroll, a writer who accused the former president of attacking her in a department store dressing room in the 90s. The verdict in the civil trial marks the first time Trump, who has been accused of sexual misconduct by more than 24 women, has been held legally responsible for sexual assault. It adds fresh tarnish to the former president's reputation as he seeks to regain the White House amid a tide of legal troubles. Yes, the sun rises from the east and sets in the west, and it's always political. The 9-person jury ordered Trump to pay Carroll $5 million. The jury deliberated for 3 hours before returning the verdict in federal court in Manhattan. Carroll testified that Trump raped her in a Bergdorf Goodman dressing room after a chance encounter one evening in the spring of 1996. The jury found that Carroll did not prove by a preponderance of the evidence that Trump raped her, but the jury did find him liable for sexual abuse and for defamation. The defamation count arose from a statement Trump made last year, which called Carroll's allegation a hoax. We'll put a pin in that, because I want to come back to that. I filed this lawsuit against Trump to clear my name and get my life back. I didn't think we were going to be coming back to that quite so quickly. Let's let's keep going for a little bit, but I want to come back to what this is, what this means, and why I think defamation was bullshit. Today, the world finally knows the truth. This victory is not just for me, but for every woman who has suffered because she was not believed. I still don't believe you. Her lawyer, Roberta Kaplan, said the verdict was a triumph for Carol as well as for democracy itself. And whenever Democrats say for democracy, it means their hegemony. Remember that. And for all survivors everywhere. No one is above the law, she said, not even a former president of the United States, in spite of the fact, again, that this was not a criminal trial. This was a civil suit for defamation. In a social media post Tuesday, Trump called the verdict a disgrace. He added, a continuation of the greatest witch hunt of all time. Trump lawyer Joe Tacopina said Trump would appeal the verdict. They rejected the rape claim, and they always claimed that this was a rape case, even though it wasn't, it was a defamation case. So it's a little perplexing, but we move forward, Tacopina said. He added he had spoken to the former president. He's firm in his belief, like many people are, that he cannot get a fair trial in New York City based on the jury pool, and I think that one could argue that's an accurate assessment based on what happened today. So this has some implications, by the way, into other political means that are going forward. Now, number one, if this can get appealed and actually taken up in another court, possibly something more objective, but even something just in a different location, this will open the door for taking the Alvin Bragg case for mishandling of campaign finance funds 39 individual times. And this does open the door for a change of venue. So we can take a different jury pool than what is in far, far blue New York. That's one avenue to look at for this. But this will involve Tacopina being on his toes, doing his homework, and getting a favorable verdict, presenting the exact same evidence in a different courtroom. Which also, by the way, means that Trump can't come back and testify the second time. They have to give the exact same evidence in the exact same way in another courtroom in order for that to hold water. But I find that avenue to actually be something interesting to look at. But I want to come back to the defamation side of this, because that's been a sticking point for me from the beginning. Now, number one, something that I said when this first came down the pipes, and this is coming from somebody who was a man whore in his 20s, and who has done it in a slew of wild places. I'm going to tell you right off the bat, having sex in a dressing room is a Herculean task when both partners are willing. I'm just going to throw that out there as somebody who has seen the inside of more than one Target dressing room. I understand the fact that the Bergdorf is probably a little bit of a different situation, but I'm still going to come back out and say that doing it in a dressing room is still a Herculean task, even when both participants are willing. And then, of course, there's no noise, there's no screaming, there's a slew of other things that just aren't happening. The only two people in the world, by the way, and this was something else that I brought forward before all women called me a pig for thinking this, is that there are only two people in the world who are ever going to know for sure what happened in that dressing room. Elizabeth Jean Carroll and Donald John Trump. Those are the only two people who are actually going to know for sure what happened in there. The rest of us can speculate. Some of our political biases are going to hold on to that, and that goes in both directions. But the only two people who will ever know for sure what happened in that dressing room are those two people, and nobody else. But I want to go back and look a bit at the fact that this was a defamation. And, E. Jean Carroll apparently lost her livelihood based on the fact that Trump said this was a hoax. Because I don't think that rises to the preponderance of evidence required either. What do I mean when I say this? Now, for defamation in the state of New York, under a civil court, the complainant, the plaintiff, has to show definitively that the actions of the defendant, the words, in this case, caused financial harm to the livelihood of the plaintiff. And in fact, when Trump came out and said that it was a hoax, I would argue, and if I was Taco Pina at this one, I would argue that that's the opposite. That every single leftoid went off to collect every single thing that E. Jean Carroll had ever written. And my counter to this has been from the beginning, how many MAGA people exactly would have bought your books had Trump not said this was a hoax? Given the fact that you are still laying this accusation, again, as far as the liability and the sexual assault, I did not watch this trial. This was a federal trial, so it wasn't televised. And I have not seen the evidence that was put forward by the jury. I just know, again, that, doing it in a dressing room is a gigantic pain, even if both participants are willing. And the only two people who will ever know what actually happened in there are Donald Trump and E. Jean Carroll, ever. Everything else is going to be hearsay from here on out. So, and by the way, I will say the same thing about Tara Reid, who we'll be talking about later on today as well. The only two people who know what happened in that archway, definitively, are Tara Reid and Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. Nobody else will ever know definitively what happened in that. Ever. Let's talk about the appeal from Fox News. Trump to appeal verdict in E. Jean Carroll case. Says he has absolutely no idea who she is. From Brooke Singman. Former President Trump told Fox News Digital that he will appeal the ruling in the E. Jean Carroll civil case, saying he has absolutely no idea who she is, while blasting the verdict as a disgrace and a continuation of the greatest political witch hunt in history. A federal jury in New York City decided Tuesday that Trump was not liable for rape, but was liable for sexual abuse and defamation. The former president has been ordered to pay $5 million. In an exclusive interview, just after the jury delivered the verdict, Trump told Fox News Digital that he has absolutely no idea who this woman is. The verdict, it's a disgrace. It's a continuation of the greatest political witch hunt in history. Trump told Fox News Digital that he will appeal. We'll appeal. We got treated very badly by this Clinton-appointed judge. It's the worst. And Carol, she's a Clinton person too. I have no idea who this woman is, which, by the way, saying that she's a Clinton person kind of undermines that. So, Taco Pina, you might want to go get your guy in line here, because just in that Truth Social statement, he had a very contradictory set of statements here. What is a woman? Thank you, Silent Caster. Carol, 79, alleged that Trump raped her at the Bergdorf Goodman department store across the street from Trump Tower in Manhattan, sometime in 1996. According to Carol, the two had a chance run-in at the store where Trump was shopping for a gift for a girl. She said he asked for his advice, and the two shopped together before he pushed her into a dressing room and assaulted her. Trump and his legal team insisted that Carol's allegations are fabricated, with the former president's initial reaction including an accusation that Carol was motivated by wanting to sell copies of her book. That denial resulted in Carol slapping Trump with a defamation claim, claiming that the response caused harm to her reputation. Again, discounting the fact that she was standing up to evil Orange Man made her book wildly popular among third and fourth waivers. I filed the suit against Trump to clear my name and get my life back, Carol said in a statement today. The world will finally know the truth. This victory is not just for me, but for every woman who suffered because she was not believed. Carol's lawsuit requested compensatory and punitive damages, as well as an order that Trump retract his statement. Trump's presidential campaign released a statement that says, Democrats' witch hunt has reached a new low, calling it an abuse of our great Constitution. Well, again, this is civil, so the Constitution says quite a bit less about this. You can sue a ham sandwich, constitutionally. It's not right, but it's constitutional. In jurisdictions wholly controlled by the Democrat Party, our nation's justice system is not compromised by extremist left-wing politics. We've allowed false and totally made-up claims from troubled individuals to interfere with our elections, doing great damage. Make no mistake, this entire bogus case is a political endeavor targeting President Trump because he is now an overwhelming frontrunner to once again being elected President of the United States. Trump's lawyer, Joe Tacopina, had told the jury in closing arguments Monday that Carol's story is too far-fetched to be believed. He echoed the claim that she made it up to fuel sales for her 2019 memoir and argues that she wanted to disparage Trump for political reasons. Again, I'm not going to come back and try to say that this did or didn't happen. There are only two people in the world that know whether or not this actually happened. But I want to take a second and look at some bad political takes on this. Number one, and again, I'm sorry, Wiz. Gotta pick on you for this one. Because we gotta talk about this here. Josh Reed questioning back to Wiz, which will actually go back into the thread. Newswire first tweet in the thread says, jury finds Trump sexually abused Carol, court hearing. Wiz Political, Wisconsin Neanderthal, quote tweets this saying, Trump now found guilty of sexual assault in civil court. Liable is different than guilt, by the way. Every television ad is going to hit suburban women with this finding day in and day out. That's actually true. Which is why I can't believe the bad political take that's to come that we were just looking at. Trump is a walking legal and comms nightmare between the civil case, whatever Georgia's DA is cooking up, and New York's pending case. Josh Reed replies to this and says, genuine question. Let's assume Trump isn't the nominee. What's to stop them from doing this to DeSantis or anybody else? And this is where we get the bad political take on this. Considering DeSantis has not paid off porn stars, been divorced 3 times, or bragged about grabbing women by their genitalia, I think he's fine. No, he is not. Full stop. No, he is not. Now, he might be fine for the first time because they're looking for somebody to come in and be sainted. Or at least through the primary season, because they're looking for somebody to be sainted. To go run against Donald Trump and win all the primaries against evil Donald Trump. He is not fine. Mitt Romney towed the party line for these people. Did exactly what a good Republican is supposed to do. Didn't try to interfere, just came back and said, slow down, you Democrats. No, okay, we'll give you whatever you want, but you have to implement it slower than what everybody else did. And he was crucified on stage. Do you guys not remember Bush? I do. Again, another person who's celebrated as a hero by these people because he says bad things about the evil Orange Man. But if this was 2004 and Bush was still in office seeking his re-election right now, we'd be hearing about, especially if social media was a thing at the time, which thankfully it wasn't, how he takes wine glasses and drinks the blood of children. You don't think we have people waiting here, especially with the stories that are already coming out from Midas Touch, that Trump himself is retweeting from the Navy and from infinite other places, that they don't have things set up ready to go for Ron DeSantis? If you think that, you're out of your mind. You're absolutely out of your mind. '80s Kid says, my bike was stolen in '87. Damn you, Trump. I think Owen Benjamin has a song for that, for you. Because we're on a YouTube stream, I'm not going to sing it. And honestly, because I don't believe that about that particular group of people, I'm also not going to sing that. Yeah, Silent Cancer says, did you know that Hillary is a woman and you're a sexist deplorable if you didn't vote for her? Yeah, I knew that. But let's talk about the Krasensteins here. This is hilarious. Because there is documented Twitter evidence that Ed here is full of shit. Breaking! The jury's just returned a verdict in the E. Jean Carroll, Donald Trump battery/rape and defamation case. But they have ruled that Trump is liable for sexual abuse and defamation, but not rape of Carroll, and will be awarded over $2 million. He's kind of got his subjects and predicates backwards in this. Carroll will be awarded over $2 million. No matter what your opinion was on this trial, the jury has ruled, and I believe that we should all respect the jury's decision. Which, by the way, given the fact that for 3 weeks before this, he had already started saying we should just respect the jury's decision, means that he already knew what was coming. It had already figured out and personally selected a jury to do what it needed to do. So he knew what was coming from this. No, we should respect that jury's decision, and for examining the evidence and hearing testimony, they have officially held Trump liable for rape. Which they haven't, actually. Will Trump supporters continue to stand by Trump now that he's been found responsible for the rape of Carroll? Again, which he hasn't. I'd love to hear your thoughts. See, the problem with this, Ed Krasenstein, is that you've been online, and you snuck online and bypassed your suspension that you got for botting by posting under your wife's account. And everybody knows that you did it too. So we have actual documentation of you saying that nobody should believe a certain court that didn't hand down a verdict that you liked. I believe the defendant in that case, what was his name? I think it rhymed with like Schmittenhaus. And it happened in a place that I used to live. And in fact, we were all told from the beginning that this was a corrupted court and a corrupted jury with a judge who was clearly MAGA because of his ringtone, in spite of the fact that he was appointed by a Democrat. Rittenhouse himself had been mostly liberal for the majority of his life. Penchant for firearms, of course, but other than that, had been mostly liberal for his entire life. But you know what? They handed down the verdict that you didn't like, and we were supposed to protest the court and not accept the results. And everything in that was illegitimate, and that's documented. Of a Krasenstein saying that. Silentcaster says, well, now that I know he was convicted by a jury in New York on a civil suit, I will definitely be voting for Joe Kids grabbed my hair in the pool while I was a lifeguard in Delaware, Biden. I got hairy legs, man! And they turn blonde in the sun! Yeah, we'll be watching that Tucker video, by the way. I have that on the stack. Alright. Moving off of E. Jean Carroll now, moving into a couple other political court system conversations. I don't know how else to put this. I've got one from the Daily Wire here. Biden rape accuser warns, if something happens to me, all roads lead to Biden, from Daily Wire News. Now, do I think something's going to happen to Tara Reade? No, I don't. I think she's being dramatic. Biden rape accuser Tara Reade warned this week on social media that if something happened to her, she was not suicidal and that all roads lead to Biden. Reade alleged during the 2020 presidential election that in 1993, then Senator Biden forced himself on her while she was a staffer in a deserted hallway of a Senate building and penetrated her with his fingers. After being almost entirely ignored by the mainstream media for weeks, Reade's allegation was finally addressed by the New York Times in a much scrutinized examination of Reade's allegation that Biden's campaign initially portrayed as having exonerated him, but which the Times made clear in a strong rebuke of Biden's camp had not. I want to make something clear. If something happens to me, all roads lead to Joe Biden, Reade wrote on Twitter. Joe Biden and DNC political machine threats, bullying, and intimidation over the last 3 years will not work. I am not suicidal. I should not be under investigation, nor am I a foreign agent. I am a private citizen. I was a former staffer of Biden's that has chosen to step forward to tell the truth, she continued. The tactics using intimidation and bullying to silence me and suppress me using DOJ and FBI and social media will not work. Leave me alone. I will testify under oath in Congress, if asked to do so, and will tell what happened and what I know, she added. The Biden corruption must end, period. Thank you. At Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz for inviting me to testify and caring about the truth. Well, Marjorie Taylor Greene is a plant, so I don't know if all the roads are going to lead to Biden. I think one of them might lead through Marjorie Taylor Greene, but again, I will say the same thing I just said about Carroll. Nobody knows what happened in that Senate hallway except for Tara Reade and Joe Biden. That's it. Nobody else knows for sure. Everybody else can speculate on the hearsay of what was brought forward, and some of us can make fun of the fact that at times we were told just a few years ago to believe all women, but in reality, nobody knows what happened in that hallway except for those two people. So that is something to watch as we go forward with this. I'm not suicidal. And not to be outdone, of course, George Santos also makes the news cycle about him. GOP Rep. George Santos has been charged by the Justice Department. Kevin Breininger. Once again, me repeating myself over and over again. This is not something that belongs in the DOJ. Especially not for this. Lying to get into Congress and lying as a congressperson. If we charged everybody who actually did that, we would have no Congress, which I'm not opposed to, by the way. Maybe this actually is a good idea. This comes from CNBC's Kevin Breininger. George Santos, the scandal-ridden freshman Republican lawmaker who admitted lying about his background on the campaign trail, has been charged by the Department of Justice. NBC News reported Tuesday, citing sources familiar with the matter. The nature of the federal charges against him was not immediately known, but one source told NBC that Santos could surrender in court in Long Island, New York, as early as Wednesday. Santos' lawyer and spokesperson did not immediately respond to CNBC's request for comment. A spokeswoman for the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of New York declined to comment. CNN first reported the charges earlier Tuesday afternoon. The freshman Republican lawmaker from New York has been under mounting scrutiny for an array of scandals that have defined his brief time in Congress. And again, the major question here is this is not between Santos and the DOJ. Unless, of course, somebody in his constituency has specifically brought a charge. This is between George Santos and the voters of Long Island. I do believe they will treat him accordingly. I do believe he lied. That much I do believe. Was it more than any other sitting senator or congressperson? Probably not, but I do believe he lied. But we'll watch this trial and see what happens with this as Democrats tries desperately to shrink the margin that they have to overcome. The already razor-thin margin in Congress. Alright, let's talk Tucker, the Mogwai's favorite topic. That much I know because I listened to him. Tucker releasing the video with that 80s kid reference just a moment ago that already has 3.4 million views. We're going to add 1 view. Technically, we're going to add 6 more. But we're going to add another view to this. I have not pre-watched this, so this is my first time. So no spoilers in the chat. Let's hear what Tucker has to say.
Hey, it's Tucker Carlson. You often hear people say the news is full of lies. But most of the time, that's not exactly right. Much of what you see on television or read the New York Times is in fact true in the literal sense. It could pass one of the media's own fact checks. Lawyers would be willing to sign off on it. In fact, they may have. But that doesn't make it true. It's not true. At the most basic level, the news you consume is a lie of the stealthiest and most insidious kind. Facts have been withheld on purpose, along with proportion and perspective. You are being manipulated. How does that work? Let's see. If I tell you that a man has been unjustly arrested for armed robbery, that is not, strictly speaking, a lie. He may have been framed. At this point, there's been no trial, so no one can really say. But if I don't mention the fact that the same man has been arrested for the same crime 6 times before, am I really informing you? No, I'm not. I'm misleading you. And that's what the news media are doing in every story that matters, every day of the week, every week of the year. What's it like to work in a system like that? After more than 30 years in the middle of it, we could tell you stories. The best you can hope for in the news business at this point is the freedom to tell the fullest truth that you can. But there are always limits. And you know that if you bump up against those limits often enough, you will be fired for it. That's not a guess, it's guaranteed. Every person who works in English language media understands that. The rule of what you can't say defines everything. It's filthy, really, and it's utterly corrupting. You can't have a free society if people aren't allowed to say what they think is true. Speech is the fundamental prerequisite for democracy. That's why it's enshrined in the first of our constitutional amendments. Amazingly, as of tonight, there aren't many platforms left that allow free speech. The last big one remaining in the world, the only one, is Twitter, where we are now. Twitter has long served as the place where our national conversation incubates and develops. Twitter is not a partisan site. Everybody's allowed here, and we think that's a good thing. And yet, for the most part, the news that you see analyzed on Twitter comes from media organizations that are themselves thinly disguised propaganda outlets. You see it on cable news, you talk about it on Twitter. The result may feel like a debate, but actually the gatekeepers are still in charge. We think that's a bad system. We know exactly how it works, and we're sick of it. Starting soon, we'll be bringing a new version of the show we've been doing for the last 6.5 years to Twitter. We'll be bringing some other things too, which we'll tell you about. But for now, we're just grateful to be here. Free speech is the main right that you have. Without it, you have no others. See you soon.
So, a lot of stuff going on with that, but it does appear that now Tucker is moving his show to Twitter. AOC is not happy about that. In fact, while he was speaking there, I should have looked that up. Because I did want to include her tweet on this, and I didn't. But that's okay, we can change that in a hurry. Okay, Poppy? But let's start by reading from CNN. Tucker Carlson announces plans to relaunch his show on Twitter. From Oliver Darcy, the very mouthpiece of objectivity, Oliver Darcy. And the editorialization starts in the first three words. Right-wing extremist Tucker Carlson announced Tuesday that he will relaunch his program on Twitter, which he praised as the only remaining large free speech platform in the world after Fox News fired him late last month. Carlson made the announcement in a video posted to social media website, which Elon Musk acquired last year. Twitter has devolved in recent months into a chaotic platform where the traditional press has come under assault from the billionaire. Oh my god. By the way, this is not marked as an op-ed, in spite of the fact that it's clearly an op-ed. DM Ryan is here. Welcome, DM Ryan. Has Don Lemon been releasing monologues too? Probably not. Speech is the fundamental prerequisite for democracy. That's why it was enshrined in the first of our constitutional amendments, Carlson said. Amazingly, as of tonight, there are not that many platforms left that allow free speech. The last big one remaining is Twitter, where we are now. Carlson demonized the news media, good, in his announcement video, accusing journalists of often excluding facts that detract from their narratives. He did not mention Musk has censored speech on Twitter, including banning several prominent reporters from the website just last year. Now, it's not our democracy, Silentcaster. I've told you this before. Every time they say our democracy, it means our hegemony. Carlson demonized the news media in his announcement video, accusing journalists of often excluding facts that detract from their narratives. He did not mention Musk has censored speech on Twitter. Oh, yeah, I read that one already. Although Carlson did not directly address his abrupt firing from Fox News in the video, he strongly alluded to it. The best hope you can hope for in this new business, at this point, is the freedom to tell the fullest truth that you can. But there are always limits, Carlson said. And you know, if you bump up against those limits often enough, you will be fired for it. That's not a guess. That's guaranteed. The Wall Street Journal, which is controlled by Fox Corporation Chairman Rupert Murdoch, reported last month that Carlson's contract with Fox News was worth about $20 million a year. The newspaper reported that Carlson was expected to be paid out in full. Well, I guess he's not anymore. At least that's the rumor, is that he told Murdoch to take that money and shove it up his ass. His move to launch a show on Twitter could jeopardize whether he ultimately receives that money. A spokesperson for Fox could not be immediately reached for comment on the matter. My God, Oliver. Can you at least pretend to be objective in this? Clearly not, but I mean, as soon as I saw those words, those two names together, Oliver Darcy, I knew what this was going to be. Let's move on and grab one from Axios. Tucker Carlson accuses Fox of fraud contract breach from Mike Allen and Sarah Fisher. Tucker Carlson, 2 weeks after being ousted by Fox News, accused the network Tuesday of fraud and breach of contract, and made a host of document demands that could precede a legal action. The aggressive letter from his lawyers to Fox positions Carlson to argue that the non-compete provision in his contract is no longer valid, freeing him to launch his own competing show or media enterprise. On Tuesday, Carlson announced he would be bringing his show to Twitter. Starting soon, we'll be bringing a new version of the show that we've been doing for the last 6.5 years to Twitter. We bring some of the other things too, which we'll tell you about. But for now, we're just grateful to be here. Free speech is the main right that you have. Without it, you have no others. The Twitter move would seem to technically violate Carlson's contract with Fox, but his lawyer's letter effectively holds that Fox breached the contract first. Sources told Axios that Carlson's lawyers sent the letter before he took to Twitter to announce the new show. So, his contract runs up to January 2025, which is ironically right after the next presidential election. Which there are people that are speculating that this is, and the problem that I have with some of the people that are speculating this was an attempt to shut him up before, or coming into the election season. Remember, he negotiated this contract before he knew that he was getting fired. And I'm willing to bet, because of the timeline of everything that happened, before they knew they were going to fire him. So I don't buy the fact that they put that provision in there to get him shut up until election time. That might be what they're using now to try to keep him going forward for that, but they negotiated this long before they knew that he was getting canned. Carlson's already gotten eye-popping offers from several right-wing outlets and has talked to Elon Musk about working together. Yeah, I wonder what the deal is going to be between the two of them. Because Tucker himself can bring in a massive amount of money just on his own. If he starts a Rumble channel, he is set for life.
It's filthy, really.
Whoops. Wrong button. Yeah, I'm a professional at this, I promise. Silent Caster says, saying democracy is like throwing a bouquet of roses at the bride and groom at a wedding. Saying hegemony is like turning those roses upside down and just throwing the thorns. You're going to get cut either way, but throwing the roses right side up looks better. Yeah, Grant says he's already set for life. That's a fair point, too. With him being away from Fox News, I can't guarantee again that I am going to suddenly become a Tucker fan. I would have to judge the content. And he has thus far not put any content forward to see if he is being controlled opposition again in another way, or if he's actually being truthful and honest. Because let's face it, when he was on Fox, he was controlled oppo. MSDNC weighing in on this. Fox News braces Tucker Carlson ready to torch network after firing. Let's listen to what these completely objective people have to say.
More fallout from these defamation and lies cases against Fox News, the settlement, the ousting of Tucker Carlson, and now reports that he wants to, quote, torch his old employer. Now, Fox ousted Carlson, but under contract, if they keep paying him, he can be kept, according to this contract and the way it's been reported, off the air. Carlson, though, preparing to, quote, unleash allies to attack Fox News to try to bully the network into letting him work for or start a right-wing rival. That's a report out of Axios. They say Carlson has also had contact with outlets, including Rumble and Newsmax, offering to pay him more than his Fox contract. It's really striking to see all this play out in public. This is the kind of stuff that doesn't usually matter as much unless you are someone as big as Carlson became, because of Fox, of course, that you might actually be a real competitor, a threat. And the outlets who want Carlson are clearly at peace with or outright happy with what has been these basically damning texts that have been revealed that are anti-woman, anti-minorities, a lot of different stuff, although as we've reported, some of that just matches what he was doing on air. So Rumble and Newsmax clearly don't see that as a fireable offense. Rumble, if you haven't heard of it, it's that video platform that has become something of a haven for QAnon supporters, according to one outlet, Salon, that says they share all kinds of content otherwise banned on other social media platforms. Newsmax we've reported on before. They have a range of hosts, and they've had a range of emphasis over the year, but right now they also face a Dominion defamation case for going down the rabbit hole of those same lies that led to such a costly payout for Fox. So what we're seeing here is something that could definitely get ugly. Then there are the leaked videos. Now, we don't have firm reporting on where these came from. We have what's called circumstantial evidence, which is it's people inside Fox News who generally are the ones who have first hands-on and control of internal videos that had not been public before. Now, whether they went to a third party or through some other chain of events got out, no one really knows, but some of the leaked videos are clearly designed to make Carlson look bad, including him discussing his own deposition in that case.
That slimy little mother sitting across from me. Oh, you're that. It was so unhealthy, the hate. Thank you, Teresa. The hate that I felt for that guy. That guy, he triggered out of me. The amount of times I had, first of all, you on my lips was like, it was unbelievable. Nobody watches Fox Nation because the site sucks. It's hard to use that site. I don't know why they're not fixing it. It's driving me insane.
Now, that last bit is Tucker Carlson.
What's ironic about the fact that this is coming out and they're actually airing this right now is that this network, I don't know about this gentleman in particular, but this particular network has just spent the last, how long has Tucker been on the air? Probably the entire time Tucker's been on the air, and I don't even remember how long that is at this point, but spent the entire time saying that Tucker is Fox News controlled. His entire life and livelihood is Fox News. He would never do anything to harm Fox News. And now they're airing video that they apparently obtained while he was at Fox News and have just been sitting on. To say, hey, this is what he really thought of Fox News the whole time. Yeah, Tucker isn't wrong about Fox Nation. He definitely is. 80s Kid also brings out a good point of, hey, I'm willing to give Tucker a second chance because I never liked Tucker. I'm willing to give him a second chance. Stop trying to make him seem cooler. From the Hill, former Green Bay Packer. Brett Favre calls for Fox News boycott over Carlson exit. Because of course he does. From Olaf Ocean. Former NFL quarterback Brett Favre, former Green Bay Packers quarterback, show some respect. Brett Favre showed his support for conservative media pundit Tucker Carlson, calling for a boycott of Fox News weeks after the network parted ways with the conservative host. And I'm with Tucker, Favre wrote on a tweet on Monday. Time to boycott Fox until they come to their senses and let the man speak. In the tweet, the 53-year-old former quarterback posted a 2-minute video clip that featured the former Fox News host Megyn Kelly discussing her own point of view on Carlson's ouster, followed by a highlight reel of Carlson's segments as Metallica's Sad But True plays in the background. That's kind of cool, actually. Alright, I want the article back, so let's do this in a new tab instead. We can watch this one. That's awesome.
Meanwhile, it's not settled.
Hello,
They don't have a deal.
DMCA.
Why not? Because he needs to be silenced while Fox tries to rebuild that disappearing audience. They are banking on you coming back to them. They've got a debate in August. You can't resist. You'll go. You'll forgive everything. They're banking on it. DeSantis is likely to announce this month, you're going to turn on Fox News. You can't go to CNN. You're not going to go to Newsmax. You're not going to go to digital media. You're going to tune in to the Fox News primetime, you lapdogs. It's what you always do. It's how they have billions. That's what's happening here.
All right, shut up, Megyn Kelly. I didn't tune into Fox News for the last one. I used C-SPAN for the last 2 pieces of debate coverage, actually. Digital media. And you know how most of the people who are listening to me right now watched the last debate? On digital media, on this channel. Loudmouth bitch.
Him silent on the sidelines for as long as possible, unable to use his voice on any of these things. On Fox, on politics, on anything. And we will win in the end, like we always do.
When the Biden administration pulled out of Afghanistan and armed the Taliban with one of the largest militaries in the entire region, no one was punished. When it turns out the vaccines didn't do what they told us they were going to do. When the lockdowns hurt more people than they helped, not one person was punished. So it would be encouraging to see someone punished for this debacle, for the 1,000 train derailments we have every year. You don't want the Third World War because you have children or grandchildren, because your own country is in deep trouble, your economy's falling apart, so you're not all in on World War III against Russia and China, and you get a moral lecture from these people? Right, okay. It's like getting a moral lecture from the banks. I'm going to steal your identity and then mock and degrade the immutable characteristics that define you as a person. And then as I do this, you are going to smile brightly and applaud and then give a speech about how liberated you feel. You don't like the direction of the country, have children, raise them the way that you want, consistent with your beliefs. When they're telling you that the two things you cannot have are guns and prayer, you know for a fact that those are the two things you need most.
Yeah, that last line was kind of based.
See you soon.
Still not a huge fan of Tucker. He will have to redeem himself with me through content. Not just selectively edited pieces that one of my favorite quarterbacks of all time put together. We'll see. I'm not going to say I'm going to hate him still. I'm not going to say that I'm going to love him. The Turtle Man getting in on this one. Mitch McConnell himself. Mitch McConnell says Tucker Carlson's following in the GOP is disturbing. From Brian Metzger. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell made clear this week that he's no fan of Tucker Carlson. But he's doing it for reasons that basically come down to the fact that Tucker is going to hurt his control over the Uniparty, whereas I'm doing it because I've spent the last 6 years believing that Tucker was hurting people to the Uniparty. We are not the same. Though the Kentucky Republican has criticized the recently fired Fox News host before, particularly over a skewed depiction of the January 6th selfie fest, the Turtle has typically opted to make these criticisms indirectly. But in the interview with Bloomberg, which is Ron Helton's favorite publication from his favorite politician, published on Tuesday, McConnell said that he was disturbed by Carlson's following in the congressional GOP and even bragged about being one of the few Republicans to criticize him. I am going to say that at the risk of patting myself on the back, and not many Republicans went after Tucker Carlson, but I did. I mean, you can't pat yourself on the back because you'd be in danger of flipping yourself onto your back and never being able to get back up. I wonder how far down on the C-SPAN feed this is. Because we can watch the video, but not from here because it's archived. Because Insider hates your ad blocker. I think Carlson developed a coterie of followers in Congress as well as in the country that I found disturbing. McConnell appeared to be referring to a March press conference where he began his remarks by holding up a letter from the Capitol Police Chief calling Carlson's depiction of security footage from January 6 as offensive and misleading. The Senate Turtle said in the same interview that he believes there's enough support within Congress to sustain U.S. support for Ukraine because, yes, he is one of those, of which Carlson had been a key critic for a good deal longer. Yeah, it's the people who are getting paid out of the Raytheon and Northrop Grumman stock portfolio. Therefore, they want more weapons to be made. These people don't think we see through them for exactly what they are. The Mogwai says Mitch always sounds like a broken McDonald's drive-thru speaker. Yes, would you like some fries with that? All right, let's move on. Let's talk about the Allen, rather, not McAllen. I think I had McDonald's on the brain there for a second. The Allen, Texas mass shooting. And we're going to take one here from our friends over at government-funded, government-sourced news media, NPR. And remember, hit that donate button because Jonathan Franklin and Catherine Hobbs need to tell you that this person is a white supremacist, but they are only 10% funded by the government to do so. So they need our money, comrade, to come back out and tell you that only evil Republicans can come out and commit mass shootings and only white supremacists can do so. And white supremacists don't even have to be white, so hit that donate button because NPR, never printing reality, National Progressive Radio. Let's see what it is that they have to say. More details are coming to light about the mass shooting at the Outlet Mall in Allen, Texas on Saturday, where gunmen opened fire, killing 8 and wounding 7 others. Authorities have now released the names of some of the victims, while evidence suggests the gunmen held far-right extremist beliefs. I still don't believe that, by the way. The suspect was identified as 33-year-old Mauricio Garcia. According to the Texas Department of Public Safety, Garcia was killed by police, which means that he will never have to answer questions as to why he did it. See, you keep throwing those suggestions up in there, Mogwai, and I'm going to start using them. Saturday's attack is considered to be the second deadliest mass shooting of 2023, according to data from the Gun Violence Archive. The victims who were killed were range in age from 3 to 37, with the names of all the victims. Following the shooting, police discovered an AR-15 and a handgun at the scene after Garcia was killed. The Associated Press reported questions still remain about how, where, and when Garcia obtained the gun used in the shooting. Which is funny because JoJo from Joy's is insisting that it was purchased legally. I'm 50% positive that's going to be disproven somewhere in the near future. On Monday, the Pentagon confirmed the gunman had been discharged from the Army for mental health reasons, which is a good indicator that he should not have passed the background check to buy that firearm, by the way. Garcia, who entered the Army in 2008, was terminated 3 months later without completing his initial entry training and was not assigned a specific job or military occupational specialty. The Defense Department told NPR that Army staff quickly identified he was a problem. The official did not go into detail about what the problem was. Regardless, that should have showed up on his NICS. Garcia's most recent employment records obtained by the NPR showed he completed Level 2 training in 2017 to work with Champion National Security as a security guard, which, by the way, should also not have happened because Champion National Security should be using the same NICS that the gun store uses. Evidence suggests the shooter held far-right extremist beliefs. We'll be talking about that in just a moment, but that's what NPR wants to tell you. I can only see Grant's comments and DM Ryan's. I can't see any others. I think the problem is on my end. Sometimes that is actually possibly something that is coming from the UK and blocking software there. Because I've run into this with UK watchers before. I think I've run into this with you before, actually, 80s Kid. Where you couldn't see the Twitch and the D-Live because of... I think it's something that the UK has restricted on their software from the Restream bot. But that was also part of the reason I started doing the chat on screen. Was because we ran into that one time before. But yes, this is not the first time I've heard this from a UK user. Alright, what else do we have here? Well, I forgot the AOC tweet that I was so eager to get back up there. Oh well, we're off that story now. If we were still talking about Tucker, I'd go back and grab it. So here's the thing, by the way. Going back to the far-right beliefs. So this is not something that was posted on Twitter or on Discord, although I do have a feeling that this guy was in a certain Discord with a certain person who used to be alive in Uvalde, and a certain person who used to be alive in Southwest New York. But Ian Miles Chong tweets out, the alleged shooter's alleged profile claims that he was inspired by libs of TikTok, which would be really interesting given the fresh swastika tattoos he had all over his body, considering Chaya Reishik is Jewish. Between this and the Tim Pool references, this thing is suspect. Where is his Twitter account? Why was he using Russian social media site to write essentially a diary to 0 followers? Let's read what he had to say. Psychovision, with a smiley face with a Hitler stash, by the way. This whole thing glows in the dark. Flagrante delicto. This post was inspired by libs of TikTok. I had this teacher who was supposed to be a chemistry teacher, but she used the class to promote Jewish diversity hippie bullshit. I was just starting to go right wing. She would always say some politically correct crap like, we bleed red, or there's only one race, the human race. I didn't know what to say at the time. I know what I would say now. Animals bleed red, but they're not considered human. This is, by the way, the part that Media Matters is going to clip if I ever become famous. If there's only one race, the human race, how is it possible for anyone to be a racist? I was sick of hearing her bullshit one day just for fun and did the Roman salute. She got butthurt as hell. Gotcha, she said. Don't even get me started on that evil man. I'm getting you started. I did it a couple more times. She said if I do it again, I was going to get detention. Thank God I'm not in Germany where the punishment would have been a lot harsher. Like a week later, I was walking into class. PC teacher said, "Hi, how are you?" I said, "Final solution." Just like that, I ruined her good mood. She went off on me. How dare you be a Hitler supporter? He would cheerfully kill your non-blonde hair, no blue eyes having behind. You're not even white. Well, he did get Germany out of economic that was completely misspelled recession. He was the Fuhrer and Chancellor of the Reich. He was one of the history's most powerful men. He was not, by the way. I was in ROTC and I was wearing my Class B uniform. As I was leaving, I said, "Heil." She said that I'm wearing a uniform that stands for diversity, equality, and justice for all, and that I should be ashamed for having those beliefs and wearing the uniform. She's sharp as a tack, but those smarts came at the expense of her common sense. I was in the hallway and I dropped my shit. I was picking my stuff up. The PC teacher saw me. She said, "Are you all right?" I just said, "White power." She said, "I would not be saying that if I was Hispanic." Dude, this is like a caricature. This is a full caricature of what the left thinks that anybody to the right of W is. PC teacher said it was tragic that I was a Hitler fan and he was notoriously evil. Well, I'm a fan of all things evil. Like, seriously, again. Hey man, she brought all this fucking BS on herself. If she would just stuck to teaching chemistry, I would have never said shit. I felt like a champion. She couldn't shame me or convince me to think like her. And the most fucked up part, despite her virtue signaling and shilling, Mrs. Whitegilt still got called a racist. Haha. Drop the PC shit and I'll stop. A lot of stuff going on in fucking clown world. You better believe that there wouldn't be. Will convert your children, drag queen story hour, losers running around loose. No Zog, communist, or liberal fake news media under Hitler's watch. 2 words that I will not say on YouTube. I probably already said way too much on YouTube anyway. Again, this does not read, and I know white supremacists. I have friends who are white supremacists. None of this reads like anything that they would say. This is like the caricature. And that's the same thing I say about Marjorie Taylor Greene when I say that she's a plant. Like, she doesn't say anything that would ever be considered to be based in reality. It is the caricature of what people on the left think that people on the right are. It's like all the posts that people made accusing people like me, like Stephen Ignoramus, like John of the Porch Boys, and KTZed, and Blonde in the Belly of the Beast. It's like what all these people on the left accused the people I just listed of being like, all smushed together and came into one person. That person is Marjorie Taylor Greene. It's like they spawned, which is why I say she's a plant. And then when I say the same thing, when I look at this reads like, I put this in a Discord, not my Discord. I was in the Porch Boys Discord last night, and I put this in there, and it was covered in Glowing One and FBI memes instantly. This reads like a caricature of what the left thinks that white racists are. I don't buy any of it. From ABC 8 out of Dallas. Allen Moss shooter had 8 weapons total at the scene. Officials say motive is still unclear. Again, a reminder, you shot this person, so he never has to reveal his motive. The Moat guy says, with our powers combined, we are MTG. From Jay Wallace and WFAA staff, Brianna Brown. The FBI, Texas Department of Public Safety, and Allen Police held a press conference Tuesday to provide an update on the Allen Mall shooting, where 8 people were killed and several others were injured. 3 to 4 minutes, that's how long it took the gunman, 33-year-old Mauricio Garcia, to kill 8 and injure several others before being neutralized by an Allen police officer. Officials said Garcia's motive is still unknown, and forensic investigators are sweeping through all of Garcia's digital services, including his computer and cell phone and his social media pages, none of which are on mainline social media. Tuesday's press briefing was the first time officials connected the investigation and talked to the media since Saturday night. According to officials, the shooting occurred at 3:36 p.m. on Saturday at Allen Premium Outlets. The Allen Police Department confirmed an officer who was responding to an unrelated incident in the area heard gunshots and ran toward them. Unlike in Uvalde, the department said the officer neutralized the shooter and called for emergency personnel. My question, and again, given the fact that this was... there's no way that this person can ever testify what his motive was. When he was neutralized, was he doing this? Allen Police Department Chief Brian Harvey said the officer demonstrated tremendous bravery. Even though the department is not yet releasing the name due to the ongoing investigation, Harvey said they do plan to recognize him and other heroes in the mass shooting at a later date. During the press conference, officials revealed Garcia was in possession of 8 weapons. Texas Department of Public Safety North Texas Regional Director Hank Sibley said they were all purchased legally. Still have questions about that, especially given the fact that he has a mental health medical discharge from the military. Also noting the fact that it's 15 years old, but still. Sibley, too, commented on the Allen officer who shot and killed Garcia and the response by the law enforcement by calling it stellar. Everyone did what they were supposed to do, said Sibley. And now the racism aspect of it, courtesy of The View. Nick Fondacaro says being Hispanic or being black or being anything does not make you immune from being a white supremacist. So saith Anna Navarro. Let's listen.
We all have to remember that the head of the Proud Boys, his name is Enrique Tarrio. The Proud Boys is a white nationalist group. Look.
Enrique Tarrio is also a plant.
Being Hispanic or being black does not, or being anything, does not make you immune from being racist, from being radicalized, from being a white supremacist, from being evil, from being homicidal. And we are seeing it over and over again. There are people, they don't see themselves as what they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, the person you mentioned is an FBI agent. And on the statistics, the Associated Press provides reality check after White House claims there have been 201 mass shootings this year. Now, mind you, I'm not entirely surprised by that, but remember, some people don't consider gang violence to be included in the mass shooting stat. Let's see. Grant says, as the Daily Beast once wrote, the future of hate is multicultural. Look how quickly they found motivation for this, but we still can't have the Nashville Shooters Manifesto. Mogwai wants off the planet. I hear Elon Musk is trying to get you there. And Grant says, Proud Boys are not white nationalists, they're just nationalists, regardless if you believe they're feds. It's just definitely wrong by Anna Navarro. Anna Navarro being wrong, imagine that. This is from Chris Enlow. White House Press Secretary token diversity hire claimed that an advertisement cut off this article. Claimed one day there have been more than 200 mass shootings in the U.S. this year alone. Not only did diversity hire claim that there's been more than one mass shooting per day, but she blamed Republicans for gun violence. Today is Monday, May 8th. That means it's the 128th day of 2023. And yesterday, according to leading accounts, we witnessed the 201st mass shooting in the country this year, she claimed. That means we're averaging more than one a day. More than 200 mass shootings in 128 days. Credible estimates show that more than 14,000 people have died this year from gun violence. This is a crisis. It's a crisis Republicans in Congress are refusing to address. We are talking about a number one killer of kids in America, and a Republican Congress is saying that there's nothing we can do about it. Yeah, that's going to be the whole briefing. We're not going to watch 50 minutes of that. Unfortunately, Diversity Hire did not elaborate on what leading sources she used to derive her figure, nor did she define what constitutes a mass shooting. Around the same time, Diversity Hire made the shocking claim, the Associated Press published a story repeating a much lower number of mass killings this year. From the Associated Press, over the first 4 months and 6 days of this year, 115 people have died in 22 mass killings. That's an average of one mass killing a week. That includes bloodshed Saturday at a Dallas area mall where 8 people were fatally shot. Every death is tragic, still nuance is necessary because the White House is using the most recent atrocity to advance its agenda on firearms. For example, the Associated Press explained the perpetrator in some of those 22 incidences used weapons other than firearms, and the contexts of the mass atrocities are different. From family and neighborhood disputes to school and workplace shootings to explosions of gunfire in public spaces, the Associated Press reported even murder-suicides compose a fraction of the numbers. The way that Diversity Hire presented her figure, its validity notwithstanding, suggested every mass killing happens the same way with the same motive, one deranged perpetrator randomly mowing down innocent people. But as the Associated Press reported, that's simply not true. While it remains unclear where Diversity Hire got the number, Matthew Littman, executive director of the pro-gun reform organization 97%, went on CNN early Monday and claimed that there have been more than 200 mass shootings in 23. This calculation includes incidences in which nobody died. Mogwai says, more than one a day. Come on, Chicago. You're slacking. Let's see. She probably counts getting destroyed by Peter Ducey as a mass shooting. I like that. I like that, Grant. That's hilarious. But there you go. 201 mass shootings. A mass shooting where nobody dies. On the non-shooting massacre that happened over the weekend, driver in deadly Texas crash charged with manslaughter. From Valerie Gonzalez. An SUV driver who killed 8 people when he slammed into a group waiting at a bus stop in Brownsville was charged with manslaughter, police said on Monday as investigators tried to determine if the crash was intentional. Authorities believe George Alvarez of Brownsville lost control after running a red light on Sunday morning and plowed into a crowd outside a migrant center in the city, which has long been an epicenter for migration across the U.S.-Mexico border. So I still have to ask the question, because there were reports, and they may have been exaggerated, that he had his middle fingers out and screaming racial epithets when he did this. Police Chief Felix Sauceda said Alvarez was charged with 8 counts of manslaughter and 10 counts of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Officials are awaiting tox reports that determine whether Alvarez was intoxicated, Sauceda said, adding that there was no motive that he could discuss. As for reports from witnesses that Alvarez was cursing at them, Sauceda said there was nothing to confirm that yet. So it sounds like this guy might have just been a drunken moron. Yes, Castor, that does. You can count that as a mass shooting. Alright, I've got one article on the debt ceiling, the Hail Mary, and we've talked about this before on this channel, but Highleaf 11 was nice enough to come back and DM this to me, so we're going to put it on the stack for the day. 14th Amendment emerges as last-ditch fix to ward off default. From Julia Mueller. Top political figures are considering the possibility that President Brandon could utilize a clause in the 14th Amendment as a last-ditch effort to ward off a threat that the U.S. could default on its debt as soon as next month. When asked about invoking the amendment, President Brandon, as recently as Friday, appeared to leave the option on the table, but told MSDNC he has not gotten there yet. But Yellen sounded the alarm on Sunday, saying using the amendment would be a constitutional crisis. The 14th Amendment obscurely addresses the nation's debt, and legal scholars believe it allows the president to continue issuing debts without lifting or suspending the ceiling. There's no way to protect our financial system and our economy other than Congress doing its job in raising the debt ceiling and enabling us to pay our bills. And we should not get to the point where we need to consider whether the president can go on issuing debt. This would be a constitutional crisis, Yellen said on ABC's This Week. The Treasury Secretary said she doesn't want to consider emergency options and warned that if Congress doesn't act to solve the issue, we will have an economic and financial catastrophe that will be of our own making. And there's no action the president and the U.S. Treasury can take to prevent that catastrophe. Well, burn it down. But Biden technically can't take action, and the White House aides have reportedly looked at the possibility in order to avoid a default. Lawmakers have insisted a deal to avoid default can only be reached between Biden and McCarthy, who are meeting Tuesday for the first time since February in an attempt to hash out a deal, which we don't have a lot of details on yet. We're going to talk about that mostly tomorrow, I think. I think that'll be top story tomorrow. Biden and his admin have spent the last few months insisting they won't negotiate and want a clean debt limit increase, but Republicans won't budge on the stance that an increase has to come with a promise of spending cuts, though the GOP has been short on details on just where it wants to see the federal budget be slashed, in spite of the fact that they actually have a document called a bill that has been presented to the American public that you, the Hill, have ridiculed. I don't think they've got the balls. I don't. I think this admin will do a lot of things by executive order that it should not be doing. I don't think they've got the balls to go this far. And whether or not the 14th Amendment grants that power is legally dubious at best. Another one, I don't believe it. I don't believe that that's actually there. Maybe if you get out your secret decoder ring and look at it, but I don't believe it's there. From the Daily Wire, J.D. Vance's railway reform bill picks up steam, from Michael Whitaker. A railway reform bill championed by J.D. Vance of Ohio is winning over high-profile support from strange political bedfellows as it heads into committee on Wednesday. The Railway Safety Act of 2023 was drafted after a derailment and chemical spill contaminated the area around the small town of East Palestine. The accident drew national attention as residents reported symptoms of nausea, dizziness, and regional water supplies across several neighboring states showed signs of contamination. The DOT and Norfolk Southern were blasted by both sides of the aisle for perceived deficiencies in their safety standards. The bill aims to enhance safety requirements for trains transporting hazardous materials and would increase inspection requirements, raise fines for safety violations, limit the size of trains, and set a minimum crew size of 2 certified personnel for all freight trains. Vance's bill has generated a considerable amount of bipartisan support in addition to its Republican co-sponsors Josh Hawley and Marco Rubio. The Rail Safety Act was co-sponsored by Sherrod Brown of Ohio, one of the Senate's most progressive members, as well as other Rust Belt Democrats Bob Casey and John Fetterman. Chuck U. Schumer and President Biden have also signed on to their support to the bill. So we might actually have something bipartisan. Now remember, if it's bipartisan, we've really got to take a look at it because it's probably got something in it that will screw the rest of us. But we have some bipartisanship going on at least. Even the former president is in on this from the Hill. Trump backs bipartisan railway safety bill from Al Weaver. Just a touch on this one. Former President Trump on Monday threw his weight behind a bipartisan railway safety package that aims to prevent similar disasters to the February train derailment in East Palestine. That's right, burn it all down, Spartan. The bill, spearheaded by J.D. Vance and Sherrod Brown, would include new safety requirements for trains carrying hazardous material. In a social media post, Trump criticized President Biden for not appearing in the area, and Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg for his response to the derailment just before offering his support for the bipartisan legislative effort. J.D. Vance has been working hard in the Senate to make sure nothing like this ever happens again, and why that's so important for Congress to pass the Railway Safety Act. J.D.'s terrific bill has my complete and total endorsement, Trump wrote. So he's got it. Spartan really wants to be a mod over on the D-Live side. I didn't even know you were a mod before. I don't remember making you a mod the first time. I thought Helton was like the only mod that I had. It looks like Mr. Scott was over here too and threw a lemon behind. And David814 also followed yesterday too, so thank you for that on the D-Live side. Do you have any other things that I need to look at? The shoutouts from yesterday's from the raid. That was there. I guess I don't look at any monitors other than my my main restream one and then Rumble. Alright, we got one from the Post Millennial here. Oklahoma revokes funding for PBS over LGBTQIRAMIGXTBYOUTAAEIOUMORA sometimes Y content for kids. From Mia Ashton. Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt has defended his decision to veto a bill seeking to fund the state's PBS station through 2026, arguing that state-funded broadcaster is indoctrinating and sexualizing children. Last week, Stitt vetoed the HB 2820, which would have funded the statewide PBS station, Oklahoma Educational Television Authority, until 2026. In a recent interview with Fox News, Stitt explained his reason for doing so, highlighting the objectionable content, such as a segment of Let's Learn featuring the children's book The Hips on the Drag Queen Go Swish, Swish, Swish. Is that a real thing? I thought that was a Taylor Swift song. Being read by drag queen called Little Miss Hot Mess. OETA to us is an outdated system. You know, the big question is, why are we spending taxpayer dollars to prop up or compete with the private sector and run television stations? And then, when you go through all the programming that's happening and the indoctrination and over-sexualization of our children, it's just really problematic, and it doesn't line up with Oklahoma's value, Stitt told Fox News. In addition to Little Miss Hot Mess, one of the founders of Drag Queen Storytime, reading The Hips on the Drag Queen Go Swish, 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 the governor's office mentioned a PBS NewsHour segment that featured parents who supported children having access to experimental medical sex changes, as well as the abundant Pride Month programming, and a special about a town of Christians and drag queens who step into the spotlight to dismantle stereotypes. Like, I know the arguments are going to come off of this, and we're going to be told that that Governor Stitt is stealing money from Elmo or something stupid like that, like they did last time. But one of the things that really gets me is what airs on PBS, which is highly produced national content, such as JJ the Jet Plane, which has a $1 billion budget, or Arthur, which had enough money to hire Crowder, or HBO-owned Sesame Street. Like, a lot of the stuff, especially on the children's side, can run on its own, and honestly, I think PBS in and of itself is vestigial at this point. Just cut PBS, merge it back in with NPR, because they're operated under the same umbrella under most states' budgets. Make it one entity and defund it. Okay, you don't have to defund it, the last part, but at least disclose how much money you're putting into the entity. But make it into one. Cut some of the fat. Trim it out. And let it be for actual public broadcasting, not, again, broadcasting out billion-dollar industries like Sesame Street and propping up HBO. When you think from a free market standpoint, there's so much television, there's so much media, said Stitt. Maybe in 57 you could have made an argument that you needed a public television station that's totally outdated at this point. And hell, I mean, everybody's walking around with a smartphone. The real public broadcasting station at this point is YouTube, honestly enough. And Twitch and DLive and Rumble and everything else, but I mean, that's still the big one out of everybody else. Some Dianne Feinstein news. We're actually almost done here. We've only got a couple articles here on Blinken after this one, which I might just skip one and only do one of them, because it's congressional contempt. It's not like it actually has any weight. But from CNN, Dianne Feinstein returning to Washington on Tuesday. From Morgan Rimmer and Manu Raju. Dianne Feinstein of California will return to Washington on Tuesday, according to a spokesperson. She's been recovering in San Francisco. Feinstein said in April her return to Washington had been delayed due to continued complications related to my diagnosis, but she planned to return to the Senate as soon as possible once my medical team advises that it's safe for me to travel. During her absence, the 89-year-old California senator faced pressure to return Washington and calls from several House Democrats to resign. 89 years old. 89. You realize when she kicks off or resigns, whichever comes first, and I do hope that she lives a long and happy life, but when she does one of those two things, she is so old that the average age in the Senate is going to drop 6 years just by one person leaving the Senate. Let that stat sink in for you for just a second. Feinstein sits on the Senate Judiciary Committee, and without her vote on the panel, Democrats say they would have to delay some of President Biden's key judicial nominees. In April, Democrat Rep. Ro Khanna of California became the first member of Congress to call on Feinstein to resign. And Chavez also says that she should retire at this point. Ro Khanna again, who I always think is Bajoran. Possibly a long ancestor of Ro Lauren. Dylan Mulvaney counts to threesome with Bert and Ernie. They might swing that way, actually. So Feinstein is back. And the last one is Anthony Blinken. GOP committee chair threatens Blinken with contempt of Congress over Afghan withdrawal information, even though, which we saw at the last administration, and even in the last Congress. Contempt of Congress doesn't mean jack shit. From Courtney Kube and Rose Horowitz. House Foreign Affairs Committee Chair has been threatened to hold Secretary of State Anthony Blinken in contempt of Congress if he does not turn over classified cable, reportedly warning that Kabul could collapse soon after the August 2021 U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan. The letter escalates a months-long standoff between the House committee and the Biden admin, which has so far been unwilling to turn over the documents to Congress. Michael McCall of Texas on Monday released a May 5th letter demanding the State Department provide Congress with an unredacted version of the July 13, 2021 cable and its official response. McCall threatened Blinken with contempt of Congress and a possible civil enforcement proceeding if he does not comply with the committee's request by 6 p.m. Thursday or provide a legal basis for withholding the document. The dissent cable and official response are critical and material to the committee's investigation into the catastrophe of the Afghanistan withdrawal, McCall wrote in his letter. State Department employees can use the dissent channel to communicate dissenting foreign policy views with senior officials. A Wall Street Journal article said the cable warned that the Taliban could seize Kabul soon after U.S. troops withdrew from Afghanistan, which we all knew was going to happen anyway. That's not exactly classified information. When they delayed the withdrawal, the Taliban, all they had to do was go out and say, "Look, the Americans, look at them. They did not keep their promise to you. Come join our cause. We get Americans out of here, out of your life. They said that they would be out of your life by now, but they found every excuse to stay in your life. We will get them out of your life." And bada boom, with the lie of the American people, The allegiance to the Taliban is born. That is a lie. I don't have hope for the world. That's why I can a bunch of stuff and load more ammo and buy a bunch more canned meat, and I'm learning how to make liquor and start a garden. I have hope for myself. Not so much the rest of us. But they're going to hold him in contempt, which I think is a fine and a couple days in jail. Which, by the way, Merrick Garland will not enforce. Alright, let's do the rules of acquisition, and then we're going to head out of here and go over and see my buddy, Mr. Behavior, if he's still on. He is not still on, damn it. I hope that he would be. Well, we'll go find somebody to raid. But before we do raiding, maybe we'll go see Skeletora. I like that. I like that idea. I like Skeletora. But before we do that, we've got to look at the rules of acquisition. Our regular Tuesday close. On Tuesdays, because we do our live chat on Mondays now, we look at the rules of acquisition, the founding documents of the religion of the Ferengi, who are ultra-capitalistic. Because Roddenberry was such a critic of capitalism, sometimes we can't use the rules of acquisition in our real lives. But when we can, we do, and we will look at these rules. We look at one every week. We look at how it's used in the series, what it actually means, and how we can, if applicable, use it in our real lives. And I have pointed out the ones that we actually can't because, well, basically it was just Roddenberry making fun of capitalism. Although he hit a lot of these ones really on the nose. I was surprised. Well, not him, but like Brandon Braga and the other writers, Jerry Taylor, they were the ones who came up with this list more than Roddenberry did. Roddenberry gave them the idea of what they were supposed to do, but Braga and Taylor were the ones that really made this list. Alright, where are we at? No, my phone's going off though. Okay, we did the 189th last week, so today we will do the 190th rules of acquisition. By the way, we're going to have to find a new geekdom coming up here pretty soon because we're already on 190. I suppose we got a little while to go, but there are only 431 canon, but we skipped straight from 299 to 431. So we are coming to the end of this list very quickly. This one is one that is perfectly suited to contemporary too, by the way. Especially since 80s Kid reminded me yesterday that I should have a t-shirt that says, I have questions. The 190th rule of acquisition is hear all, trust nothing. You're going to be fed propaganda in the news. The news is going to be set in a way to try to make you feel a certain way about what's happening, whether or not it's true. Or whether it's true but arranged in a way to try to get a feeling out of you. A news story can be 99% true, but still leaving enough out of it to get you outraged at some point. You might be sold a product that you are assured is the top of the line and find out that it is nothing but the bottom of the line. You will hear a great many things throughout your life. In your interactions with people, in your interactions in business, even in your interactions with the government. Question everything, trust nothing. Always go back and do your own research. I mean, safe and effective is all that I'm going to say about that, because saying anything else about a certain jab that is completely, perfectly safe and effective, don't ban me, Susan, may have some political motivation behind it. And you're just fine asking questions. There are people out there that will say, conspiracy theorist, if you ask the wrong questions, or if you even ask the right questions. But don't let that discourage you. You do need to make the determination of what is best for yourself. And sometimes that means asking questions. Sometimes that means not trusting what's around you. Or not just blindly taking what the TV man has to say for himself. I've told you guys to fact check me before. And I hope that you would. I think you should. If I'm wrong, tell me. Now that is not to say this is free reign on the JQ, obviously. Because we had that conversation a few weeks ago. It's part of the reason we don't see Ron here anymore. Which is regretful. I like Ron Helton a lot. And he was an asset to this chat for the entire time that he was here. But absolutely, the 190th rule of acquisition, hear all, trust nothing. And we're done. We're out of here. What an interesting day. We got up to the 8 o'clock hour. We're just shy of 2 hours because I actually didn't get started because, waiting on Odyssey led us to not get started until 6:06. So with that, let's throw some outro music up and let's head out of here for the day. No, our outro music is not Megalovania. Even though I've never played Undertale, our outro music is a mix that came to us specifically from Stephen Ignoramus. Alright, so thank you everybody who came by and chatted in the live chat, everybody who came and hung out and kept us on point and on topic, and also boosted the algorithm on the Twitch side to get us out there to more people. We'll be back here tomorrow with more news, more headlines, more contemporary. We will probably be talking extensively about what gets released about the meeting between Biden and McCarthy from today, and see if we're actually going to hit the debt ceiling and everybody's going to go into abject poverty because of those evil Republicans who won't just give Biden everything that he wants without getting something back in return. How could they do that? I have no idea, but we'll probably find that out tomorrow. We will find out what it is the mainstream media thinks about that, and a whole host of other things. We will see what happens in the next 22 hours. Looking forward to that. If you are on Twitch, stick around. We're going to go find somebody to raid. Otherwise, come back and join me at 6 p.m. Central Time for more news, more headlines, more contemporary. Looking forward to it. We will see you then, and until then, I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.